All right, let's get to the stories in the news today. Starting, if I can, we've talked about this with listeners all day. Mark Carney coming back empty-handed from Ottawa, and of course he took it today in the House of Commons. Here's a little sample of what went on.
We are striking deals with countries around the world. We have the best deal already with the Americans, and it will be even better.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we'll go soft on him today because I know he's still recovering from surgery to have his elbows removed. Remember that promise, Mr. Speaker? Dancing around with his elbows in the air. We haven't seen those elbows since the election.
Okay. That's what you missed today if you didn't hear any of this. Scott, look, I asked this question of our listeners as well. So, yeah, he comes back empty-handed. Some people are suggesting the shine's beginning to wear off a bit. What do you think?
Well, I'm not sure. I think that here's the thing that's comforting for Carney is when you ask people, who do you trust dealing with Trump, he's like 25 points ahead of Poilievre. So in a weird way for Poilievre, trying to score points on this is actually losing territory. He's way better off when they have a day in the House of Commons where he's talking about the price of milk or the price of gas or how people are trying to find a place to live. The challenge, I think, for Carney, and it's one that makes me shake my head, to be honest, as a former communications director to a prime minister. I don't think it was reasonable to expect that he was going to come back with some big win. And so I don't understand why his office wasn't clearly signaling to try to take away the sting of this. Look, we're not going to go down there for a deal. That's not what's happening. This is about trying to establish a little bit more relationships and process, whatever the hell it is that they wanted to say. But they kind of said nothing. And in politics, when you leave a vacuum, it gets filled, not by your friends, but by your opponents. So that's thing number one. Thing number two, I would say, is I kind of felt like maybe something that was supposed to happen didn't happen yesterday.
Oh.
I kind of think there's still something shaking. Not on steel and aluminum, because I think Trump set in on that. Not on CUSMA. I think it's going to unfold under its own calendar. I kind of had a vibe, especially when they added the energy minister at the end of these meetings. I wondered if they were going to make a play on Keystone. We do know it came up. And we do know that they kept Dominic LeBlanc down there to do a couple more days of discussions. That to me, like something around critical minerals, North-South Pipeline, Keystone, trying to say, listen, we will actually make Keystone go heavy if in turn you will give us some relief on something else. That to me felt like maybe there's some horse trading going on, and they didn't want to signal it for fear that it wouldn't conclude. And with Trump, you could have an ironclad agreement with four of his secretaries and cabinet members and not have it come to fruition. Sure. So that was I had a vibe that maybe something that was supposed to happen didn't happen yesterday. We'll see if it ever happens.
And likely to happen because Dominic LeBlanc stuck around? Still?
I'm citing that as, in my conspiratorial brain, evidence that there's something they're working on.
Okay.
He didn't need to stay if it was only all about Trump and Carney just being together, having a touch base, seeing each other eye to eye. By the way, I do think there's one advantage to Canada of being eyeball to eyeball with Trump, which is that he is a born in the bone bully. And you know what bullies are like. They talk tough when you're not in the room. They talk about the 51st state. They talk about how they're going to wash your face with their hockey glove. But when you're with them, they do what Trump did yesterday. Oh, he's a great guy, very, very, very tough, very, very good negotiator. Like they always blow smoke in your face. Bullies don't fight. They threaten. Yeah. And so I do think that for Canada, just to be there, it forces Trump to no, good guy. We got a lot in common. Everything's good. And he did do that. That sort of condescending, tap on the head, we're pals thing.
By the way, let me just mention, Scott, as an aside, I think that may be the worst Donald Trump impersonation I've ever heard. But good on you.
I don't think it was. I think it was a Grandpa Walton impression, technically.
Good on you anyway.
Older listeners.
Let me go to the other thing that's happening here provincially that we want to talk about as well, and that's this idea of a Quebec Constitution. Simon Jolin Barrette, who's our Justice Minister here today, going on about this. Very important for them to introduce it. Here's part of what he said.
The Constitution that we will adopt will not be caquist, will not be péquiste, will not be liberal. It will be a Quebec Constitution for people of Quebec.
Not sure what that means. I'm not sure who asked for this. So first of all, I understand there are other Canadian provinces that have their own constitution. What does this mean?
Not much. Look, I think, frankly, okay, so there may be other provinces. It means more for Quebec than it means for anybody else, because Quebec is a distinct place with its own culture, history, language, all of that kind of stuff. So it's going to resonate and matter more. I think the words that were said there, and they kind of echo something that Pablo Rodriguez said, which is, listen, if you're going to do this, if you're going to sort of say there's got to be like a constitution, a charter of what we are all about as a community, then it can't be partisanized, right? Like, it's got to be something that speaks more broadly. That makes a lot of sense to me. That's what the minister we just heard sort of was saying. I just don't know that that's backed up by the reality. I think it's contaminated as an idea by the fact that the government looks like it's just straining and stretching to find something to live by, something to give itself a last gasp, something to keep it off the mat. And I've been in governments in Ontario and federally where we were down and out. And like, you can take a good idea that polls well and that resonates with voters, and just by virtue of you introducing it, people go, yeah, this is garbage, because your motives are suspect. And I think that's the place that Legault is in. So I think he might actually be turning this idea, which could have some political currency, into a bad thing, because people would be like, yeah, the reason I'm not supporting it is because you are.
You know, it's interesting, though, because the tact he was taking today was, look, the opposition here, the Parti Québécois, who, of course, are doing much better in the polls than the CAQ are, they're trying to get their own constitution. It's kind of like a race to the bottom, in a sense. And I found that interesting today, because we have another clip here where he talks about the fact that the PQ didn't like the idea, that he was asking other Quebec, politicians about this. Listen to this.
And it's really bizarre, the proposition of the Parti Québécois. It's okay if I consult only PQ members, but if I consult Jean Charest and Philippe Couillard, it's not okay? Why?
Why? I mean, that's what he's asking. Yeah. Again, it's kind of a race to see who comes up with this first. And I'll get the government, to your point, has really been taking it in the polls. So I guess this is going to be their where they set their flag.
Look, I guess tactically, Legault is making a point there, and he's not wrong. I mean, there's an affectation about the Péquistes, always has been, which is, there's a kind of a hubris about them that we speak. We're pure lane. We're the ones that really speak for Quebec.
Yeah.
So why would you consult with these others? Because they're carpet beggars. They're not the real deal. Only we are the real deal. Only we are actually elected to champion and to serve the cause of the Québécois. And so I think he's on to something there. I just don't know if it gets him anywhere. Like, I mean, I'm just so, and maybe I'm just too cynical, but I'm just so slathered in skepticism that this government can get off the mat, that I see everything through the lens that I think most voters see it through, which is, well, they're just doing whatever they can to try to, stave off the hangman.
I think that's very much the case, and I think you're right. I think most Quebecers do see it that way. Scott, thanks so much.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll. One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's all. Bryan Adams Radio. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app.